So I'm Luke Allport. I'm 46, just turned 46, married to Rachel, and I've got 3 kids, Molly, Tristan and Finn. I guess the big part of the story is that I grew up in Riverside from about the age of 8. I chose to do psychology at the University of Bath. In terms of student life and the course and being with Rachel, but in terms of Christianity, I think we both say we slipped back a little bit. I went off the rails a little bit. We tried different churches, it kind of didn't work out, we didn't settle anywhere. And I got to the end of the 4 years. I didn't do as well as I hoped. I'd always had this plan, this fixed idea in my head that I would be a family therapist, and the way it was going to happen was that I'd do a degree and then I'd become a clinical psychologist, and suddenly I felt like that wasn't going to happen. And I remember that being a really significant moment in my life, and I kind of didn't really reach out to God as much as I could at that point, and just kind of rallied and carried on. I qualified as a social worker in 2002, worked for Warwickshire County Council for a while in child protection, but that was a real difficult time. I knew I didn't want to do child protection work. I moved on to a job in CAMS, so child and adolescent mental health. That was my main interest, in December 2004. And I think this is where the real significance comes in terms of God's relevance in my life, God's work in my life. I had a really terrible bad sinus infection in December 2004. And I remember on Boxing Day, being at my parents', we were there for Christmas, lying on the floor in their living room, ill, barely able to lift my head, head pounding. And the tsunami, if you remember the Boxing Day tsunami, 2004, that was on the news, and I couldn't lift my head properly to watch the footage. I could just about hear it. And I think looking back, and even then, I think I knew there was really something significant about that time, something God was doing in me, but I didn't understand why. Really felt kind of physically and emotionally paralysed by it, similar to how I'd felt when I realised I couldn't do clinical psychology as I wanted to a few years before. Again, it was like, this, what's going on? I don't have experiences like this. I've grown up in a good Christian household, had a good upbringing. This kind of thing doesn't happen to me, but it was, and it was real. What followed was a series of recurrent sinus infections, periods of being well, and then getting sinus infections again and again. In March 2005, I had surgery on my sinuses. That didn't really seem to have much of an impact. I had immune treatment and so on. It made some difference, but not really. And it culminated in doing a job that I was never really entirely comfortable with, but was made much more difficult by what I was going through. And in July 2007, because of the amount of time I've had off, I went to a final hearing in terms of the risk of dismissal. Anyway, I was sacked. I went into a period of real turmoil, not knowing who I was, questioning my faith. Despite that, went straight into a new job as a postman, because that's kind of just about all I felt I could do at that point, mentally and physically. So by September 2007, having lost my job in July, I'd got a new job as a postman. And I would recommend anyone to be a postman at least once in their life, because it's really good. But it was a real nightmare experience in some ways, a desert period of my life. I thought I'd do it for 6 months to a year. 8 years later, I was still there. But looking back, God was there all the way through. I now wouldn't change it for the world, because it gave me an opportunity to be a parent, to learn about the practicalities of parenting and family life. And then I came across something called MST, which is multi-systemic therapy, and it's a job that I do now, and I've been in ever since. It's exactly what I want to do. It's the amalgamation of social work and psychology, and so it's the two things that I'd done. And yeah, life was much better. And then last year, I had long COVID, diagnosed with long COVID in August last year. So having made progress with my sinus problems, seemingly got over my health issues, suddenly felt like I was hit with another tsunami. Couldn't get out of bed for days, had 3 months off work. So of course started to feel the risk of history repeating itself and losing my job again, and thinking, what the heck is happening? God, again, this doesn't happen to someone like me. Why is this happening? And seeking God in it all, much, much more, I guess. And felt like he was saying, Luke, I'm taking you through this now to heal you of what you went through before. Because actually you've been traumatised by it far more than you realise, and you went straight into another line of work because you kind of had to financially for your family and so on, but you never had time to process it. You didn't have therapy, you didn't have counselling, you didn't have support. I was with you, but it's been hard for you, and I just wanted to share a couple of things about what I feel like God's taught me, and the really important things that have come out of it for me. God is more interested in our character and dependency on him than anything else in life, career, health, etc. Not that he doesn't care about those things. A lyric in a song called Just Be Held by Casting Crowns, who are my favourite Christian band. If you haven't seen them, check them out, they're amazing. Is when you're on your knees and answers seem so far away, you're not alone, stop holding on and just be held. Your world's not falling apart, it's falling into place. Just be held. And that's what I feel like God's been saying about the last year or so especially. And then coming back to Riverside, and I won't go into why that's happened, but God's definitely brought us back. And finding out when we did the Belonging to Riverside course that, and I didn't know this as a kid, that Riverside Church and the philosophy behind it was built on Ezekiel 47. So that God spoke to me about that, and feeling like we've got a new opportunity and a new hope for the future.